Tonight's story takes you far from the solid ground you know about. It takes you to a world of endless water, of creaking wood and acrid smoke, of profound loneliness and sudden violent terror. It takes you to the mid-19th century. Aboard an American whaling ship, a floating factory of sweat and oil, adrift in the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Pacific Ocean. Before we begin, get comfortable. Find the cool side of your pillow. Pull your blanket up to your chin, and let its weight be an anchor in the quiet of your room. Close your eyes. Listen to the sound of your own breathing, a gentle tide rising and falling, in and out. Let the noise of the day fade away, like a distant shoreline sinking below the horizon. Let your muscles soften, your mind grow still. There is nothing for you to do now but listen, nothing to do but drift. You are here, now, in the belly of the ship, in the dark, close air of the forecastle, and you are about to wake. The first thing you feel is not a sound, but a movement, a slow, deep, inend. Your body, lying in a narrow, coffin-like bunk, sways with it. It is a motion you no longer notice when you are awake, but one that permeates your sleep, a constant, gentle rocking that has replaced the stillness of land. A deeper groan echoes through the timbers of the hull, just inches from your ear. It is the voice of the ship itself, the sound of 1,000 joints of wood and iron, straining against the immense, patient pressure of the sea. You know its language now. The sharp cracks of the cold, the low moans of a heavy sea, the shudder that runs from keel to masthead when a wave strikes the bow. The air you breathe is thick. It is a living substance, a heavy blanket woven from the smells of 60 unwashed men, of damp wool and mildewed canvas, of stale bilge water sloshing far below, of the faint lingering ghost of burnt whale oil that has seeped into the very grain of the wood. It is a smell you can taste, an oily, sour film on the back of your tongue. You open your eyes. Darkness. Not a complete blackness, but a dense, deep gray. A slit. It does not illuminate so much as outline the shapes around you. You see the curve of the bunk above, so close you could reach up and touch the rough, splintered planks. You see the dark mounds of sleeping men, crammed into tiers on either side of the narrow, cluttered space. A cough, wet and ragged, rattles from a bunk across the way. It is followed by a low groan. Someone mutters in their sleep, a language you don't understand. Portuguese, perhaps. The sounds are intimate, too close. There is no privacy here. Every breath, every shift of weight, every troubled dream is a shared experience. The cold is a physical presence. It works its way through your thin, lumpy mattress stuffed with straw, and through your single threadbare blanket. It is a damp, penetrating cold that seems to emanate from the ocean itself, chilling the wood, the air, and your bones. You pull the rough wool blanket tighter around your shoulders. The fabric is coarse and itchy against your skin, and it carries the same sour smell as the air. You lie still for a moment, listening. On rough days, the world becomes a chaotic symphony of crashing water and screaming wind, and sleep is a thing you fall into from pure exhaustion, only to be thrown out of it as the ship lurches violently. But today, there is only the deep, resonant breathing of the ocean. Time to move. Your watch will be called soon. You swing your legs over the side of the bunk, your bare feet meeting the cold, grimy floorboards. The floor is slick with condensation and something else, something you try not to think about in the dark. You have to move carefully, your hands finding familiar holds in the darkness. The edge of the bunk, a support beam worn smooth by countless hands. You are a green hand, a boy from a farm who had never seen the ocean, until you signed the ship's articles 6 months ago. The romance of it, the posters in the port town promising adventure and fortune, have long since evaporated, leaving only this hard, cold reality. The sea is not your friend. The ship is not your home. It is a prison of wood and water, and your sentence is 3 years, or until the hold is full of oil, whichever comes first. You pull on your trousers, the canvas stiff and cold. Your shirt, the same one you have worn for a week, is damp against your back. There is no point in cleanliness. There is nowhere to wash, and even if there were, the salt water would only leave your clothes stiffer and your skin more raw. You have learned to live with the layer of grime, the constant itch, the feeling of being perpetually damp. A man stirs nearby. It is Silas, a harpooner from the vineyard. His shape is a dark mass in the gloom. He says nothing, but you hear the rustle of his clothes, the soft thud of his boots on the deck. He is a man of few words, his face a mask of sun-weathered leather and quiet competence. You and the other new boys watch him with a mixture of fear and awe. He is what you must become to survive this life. You follow his shadow, moving towards the ladder that leads up to the deck. The air grows colder as you ascend. You push open the scuttle, and the gray morning light floods in, making you squint. The deck of the Astroscargo is a maze of ropes, barrels, and strange, menacing equipment. Everything is wet. A thin film of sea spray coats the planks, the coils of rope, the massive tryworks that dominate the waist of the ship. The tryworks, 2 enormous iron pots set in a brick furnace, are cold and dormant now, their surfaces streaked with rust and soot. But you have heard the stories of when they are lit, when the ship becomes a floating hell of fire and black smoke. The sky above is a vast, unbroken expanse of gray. The clouds are a soft, thick blanket stretching from one horizon to the other. The ocean is the same color as the sky, a rolling plain of dark, liquid slate, its surface ruffled by the morning breeze. There is nothing else. No land, no other ships. Just this small, self-contained world of wood and sail, utterly alone in the immensity of the sea. The cold wind cuts through your thin shirt, raising goosebumps on your arms. It carries the taste of salt to your lips. Another man from your watch, a young Azorian named Matteo, climbs onto the deck behind you. He nods a silent greeting, his face pale in the thin light. "Cold," he murmurs, his breath a white puff in the air. "Aye," you reply. It is all that needs to be said. You make your way aft, past the mainmast with its web of rigging reaching up into the gray sky. The sails are set, huge rectangles of pale canvas that belly and snap in the wind. They are stained and patched, testament to 1,000 storms. The sound of the wind in the rigging is a constant hum, a low, mournful song. The cook is already at work in his galley, a small shack near the stern. The smell of boiling coffee, bitter and strong, cuts through the salt air. It is the one small comfort of the morning. You join the short, silent line of men from your watch. The cook, a grizzled man with a permanent scowl and a missing arm, slops a thick, dark liquid into your tin cup and hands you a piece of hardtack. This is breakfast. The coffee is scalding hot and tastes more of chicory and burnt grain than coffee beans. The hardtack is a slab of unleavened bread, baked until it is as hard as a piece of wood. It is tasteless, and you have to dunk it in your coffee for a long time to soften it enough to chew. You gnaw on it slowly, your jaw aching with the effort. You have seen men break teeth on this stuff. You have also seen the weevils that sometimes crawl from the small holes in its surface. Today yours seems clear, a small mercy. You find a place to sit on a coiled rope, your back against the bulwark. You eat your meager meal in silence, watching the sea. The ship plows onward, rising and falling, a steady, relentless rhythm. The bow cuts through the dark water, sending sheets of white spray arcing into the air. A few seabirds, gray and lonely as the sky, circle the ship, their cries thin and sharp on the wind. This is the routine, the waiting. For weeks you have seen nothing. The days bleed into one another. A monotonous cycle of watches, meals of salt beef and hardtack, and the endless back-breaking work of maintaining the ship. You have scrubbed the decks until your knuckles were raw, tarred the rigging until your hands were black and sticky, mended sails with a needle that felt clumsy and alien in your calloused fingers. The purpose of all this, the reason you are here, feels like a distant dream. Whales. The word itself seems strange and mythical. You have seen pictures in books, magnificent creatures leaping from the sea. But out here, in this endless gray emptiness, it is hard to believe they are real. Your watch begins. The second mate, Mr. Finch, a hard, sharp-faced man, assigns the tasks. He doesn't shout. He never needs to. His voice is quiet and cold, and it carries an authority that no one dares to question. He sends you and Mateo to the ratlines to check for chafe on the lines high above the deck. You begin the climb. The rope ladders or shrouds are slick with moisture. The wind is stronger up here, pulling at your clothes. You learned that lesson on your first day, when the dizzying height and the swaying of the mast made you sick with vertigo. You focus on your hands and feet, on the feel of the rough, tarred rope, on the rhythm of the climb. Higher and higher you go, past the main yard, a massive spar of wood as thick as your body. The deck shrinks below you, the men becoming small, dark figures. The world expands into a breathtaking, terrifying panorama of sea and sky. You feel a familiar knot of fear tighten in your stomach, but you push it down. Fear is a luxury you cannot afford. You and Mateo work in silence, your fingers growing numb in the cold wind. You run your hands along the thick hemp ropes, searching for any signs of wear, any place where one rope has rubbed against another or against the mast. A frayed line can snap in a storm, bringing a whole section of the rigging crashing down. It is tedious, vital work. From your perch, you can see the lookout in the crow's nest, a small barrel, fixed to the very top of the mainmast. Every man on board takes his turn at the masthead, 2 hours at a time, staring out at the empty ocean until his eyes burn. Searching for a spout, a sign, anything. You finish your task and begin the slow descent back to the solid world of the deck. Your arms ache and your fingers are stiff and clumsy. Mr. Finch gives you a new task without a word of acknowledgement. Polishing brass. The ship's bell, the binnacle, anything that can shine. It is pointless, mind-numbing work. The salt spray will tarnish the metal again in hours. But it is work that fills the time. It keeps you from thinking too much about the vast emptiness that surrounds you, about the 3 years that stretch before you like an impassable desert. The morning wears on. The gray light brightens slightly, but the sun remains hidden behind the thick clouds. The routine is broken only by the striking of the ship's bell, marking the passage of the half-hours. It is a slow, methodical division of a day that feels eternal. You are on your hands and knees, scrubbing a patch of deck where the stone is heavy, and you have to push it back and forth, the grit and water scouring the wood. Your back aches, your knees are raw, the water is cold. Around you, other men are engaged in similar tasks. The ship is a hive of constant, low-grade activity. The sounds are of work. The scrape of the holy stone, the thud of a caulking mallet, the rhythmic squeak of the pumps clearing the bilge. The smell of the midday meal begins to drift from the galley. It is the same smell as yesterday and the day before that. Salt beef boiled to a gray, stringy mush, and potatoes, if there are any left that haven't rotted. Your stomach rumbles, but it is a hollow, joyless hunger. You know the food will fill your belly, but offer no pleasure. You finish your section of the deck and rinse it with a bucket of seawater. Mr. Finch inspects it with a critical eye, then nods curtly and moves on. You are dismissed for your meal. You retrieve your tin plate and cup and join the line again. The cook slops the gray stew onto your plate. It is salt beef, just as you expected, with a few pieces of broken hardtack thrown in to thicken it. You take your meal and find a place to sit, wedged between two barrels. The wind has picked up, and you have to shield your plate to keep the spray out of your food. You eat mechanically, barely tasting it. The beef is incredibly salty, a necessity to preserve it for months on end. It is tough and chewy. You wash it down with water from the scuttlebutt, a large cask of fresh water near the mainmast. The water is stale and has a woody taste, but it is wet. It is guarded jealously, doled out in strict rations. A man who wastes water is a man who earns the hatred of the entire crew. As you are finishing your meal, a sudden change in the atmosphere of the ship occurs. It is not a sound, but a tensing, a collective holding of breath. A voice, thin and high and strained with excitement, carries down from the masthead. Blows there she blows. The words are like a jolt of lightning. Every man freezes. The scraping stops. The hammering stops. Every head turns. Every eye looks up towards the crow's nest. The lookout is pointing, his arm a rigid line against the sky. There she blows, a whole pod, 2 points off the starboard bow. The captain appears on the quarterdeck, as if from nowhere. Captain Ahab, you think, for a delirious moment, before shaking the storybook image from your head. This is Captain Gardner, a stern, gray-bearded Quaker from Nantucket. But in this moment, his eyes burn with a fire that seems just as intense. He raises a long spyglass to his eye, steadying it against a shroud. The silence stretches, taut and fragile. The entire ship waits for his judgment. You feel your heart begin to pound, a frantic drum against your ribs. Your tin plate sits forgotten on the deck beside you. The captain lowers his spyglass. A slow smile spreads across his face, a rare and unsettling sight. "Sperm whales," he says, his voice low but carrying across the entire deck. "Big ones." He turns to the first mate. "Mr. Starbuck," he calls, his voice cracking with an energy. The ship explodes into a frenzy of controlled chaos. The waiting is over. The hunt has begun. Men are shouting now, not with anger or fear, but with a kind of wild, greedy excitement. It is a shocking transformation. The lethargic, shuffling men of 5 minutes ago are now moving with a terrifying speed and purpose. Ropes are uncoiled. Equipment is checked. The air crackles with energy. "Aft boat's crew, to your stations," Mr. Finch bellows. That's your boat. You scramble to your feet, your mind struggling to keep up. Your heart is a wild bird beating against your chest. This is it. This is the moment you have both dreaded and longed for. You run towards the stern, your bare feet slapping against the wet planks. The other men of your boat's crew are converging on the same spot. Mateo is there, his eyes wide, his face flushed. Silas, your boat's harpooner, is already in the boat, checking the lines, his movements economical and precise. The whaleboat, a slim, elegant craft about 30 feet long, hangs from wooden davits over the side of the ship. Mr. Finch shouts, already climbing aboard. He is the boat header, the man who will command the hunt. You clamber over the bulwark and into the boat. It sways precariously as the men find their places. You take your position on a wooden thwart. your hands finding the smooth, worn wood of a massive oar. It is the midship oar, the heaviest and longest. Your oar. You have practiced this, drilled it endlessly, but your mind feels blank with a mixture of adrenaline and fear. Ready to lower? The captain calls from the ship's rail. Ready, sir, Mr. Finch replies. You grip the sides of the boat. There is a sickening lurch as the davits are released. The boat drops, swinging out over the water. For a moment, you are suspended between the ship and the sea, and then the boat hits the water with a jarring slap. The cold spray hits your face. Cast off, ropes are thrown, and the boat is free from the mother ship. The Argo is already turning away, giving you room to maneuver. It looks huge and solid from down here, a wooden mountain. And then it is behind you, and you are facing the open sea. The other 2 whaleboats are hitting the water nearby. 3 slender boats, each with 6 men, pulling away from the ship, racing towards an unseen enemy. Oars out, Mr. Finch commands from his position in the stern. You and the other 4 oarsmen wrestle the long, heavy oars into the oarlocks. It is an awkward, clumsy movement in the cramped space. Now pull. His voice is a whip crack. Pull, you sons of farmers, put your backs into it. You dig your oar into the dark water and pull. The oar is heavy, unwieldy. The boat lurches forward. You pull again, trying to find the rhythm with the other men. The man in front of you, a veteran sailor, sets the pace. You watch his back, the powerful flex of his muscles, and try to match his stroke. Pull, breathe, pull, breathe. The boat begins to glide through the water, picking up speed. The only sounds are the rhythmic grunt of the oarsman, the creak of the oarlocks, and the hiss of the water. Silas, the harpooner, stands motionless in the bow, a silent, deadly statue. He holds his first iron, a heavy barbed harpoon, ready. The sea is a series of rolling gray hills. The boat climbs one side of a swell and then slides down the other. In the troughs, you can see nothing but walls of water. On the crests, you catch a fleeting glimpse of the vast, empty ocean. The mother ship is already growing smaller in the distance. You feel terribly small, terribly exposed. A handful of men in a sliver of wood chasing a monster. There, Mr. Finch says, his voice low and tense. See them? You follow his gaze. And then you see it. A plume of white mist hanging in the air for a moment before being snatched away by the wind. A spout. And another. And another. They are closer than you thought. A pod of them, moving slowly, their massive bodies just below the surface. You can see the dark shapes, huge and oblong, gliding through the water. A shiver runs through you that has nothing to do with the cold. They are real, and they are enormous. They did not capture the sheer, overwhelming scale of the creatures. Easy now, Mr. Finch whispers. He is talking to himself as much as to the crew. Easy does it. Don't spook them. He steers the boat on an intercepting course, trying to approach them from behind, unheard and unseen. The rhythmic creak of the oars seems deafeningly loud in the sudden stillness. Oars, he says, his voice barely audible. Ship them. Quietly, you lift your oar from the water and carefully lay it inside the boat. The other men do the same. The boat loses its momentum, gliding silently through the water, carried only by the swell. You dare not move. You hold your breath. The only sound is the lapping of water against the hull. They are right there, not 50 yards away. A huge, dark back, slick and black, breaks the surface. It is wrinkled and scarred. Like the bark of an ancient tree, it is not the sleek, smooth skin you imagined. It looks ancient, powerful, alive. The whale breathes, a great explosive sigh that seems to shake the air. The spout of mist shoots high into the sky, and you can smell it, a strange, fishy, musky scent. It is the size of a small building, and you are going to attack it with a small boat and a pointed stick. The madness of it, the sheer, suicidal arrogance of it, hits you with the force of a physical blow. Your mouth is dry. Your hands, gripping the gunwale, are slick with sweat. Silas has not moved. He is a study in perfect stillness, his harpoon poised. Mr. Finch uses a small paddle to scull the boat forward, inch by silent inch. Closer, closer. The water is clear here, and you can see the whale's immense body suspended beneath the surface. You see its eye, a small dark thing set in that vast head, an eye that seems to hold a kind of ancient, placid intelligence. You are so close now you feel you could reach out and touch it. The boat is directly behind its enormous, square head. The tension is unbearable. It is a silence that screams. "Now, Silas," Mr. Finch hisses. "Give it to him." Silas moves. It is not a sudden movement, but a smooth, powerful uncoiling of his entire body. He rises on the balls of his feet. His arm swings back, and then forward. The harpoon flies from his hand, a black line against the gray sky. It seems to hang in the air for an eternity. It strikes. The sound is a dull, sickening thud, like an axe hitting wet leather. The harpoon sinks deep into the whale's black flesh, just behind the head. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. The whale seems not to have noticed. It continues to glide forward, the wooden shaft of the harpoon sticking out of its back at a jaunty angle. And then the ocean explodes. The whale's entire body convulses. It smashes down onto the surface with a sound like a cannon shot, sending a wall of green water and white foam crashing over you. The boat is thrown sideways, swamped. You are drenched, gasping, blinded by the salt water. The world is chaos, a confusion of shouting and roaring water. "Hold on," Mr. Finch screams. The whale line, the rope attached to the harpoon, is coiled in a tub in the bow. It is now screaming out of the tub, a blur of hemp flying over the bow. Silas is desperately trying to snub it around the loggerhead, a stout post in the stern, to create drag. Smoke rises from the wood as the rope chars it from friction. The whale sounds, diving deep. The line goes taut. The bow of the boat dips violently, shipping more water. And then you are moving. The boat surges forward, pulled by the immense power of the wounded creature tethered to you. This is it, the Nantucket sleigh ride. The water hisses past the hull. The speed is terrifying. You are not sailing. You are flying. Skimming across the surface of the sea, you and Mateo work together, scooping the cold, heavy water out of the swamped boat. The other men are doing the same. Mr. Finch is at the steering oar, fighting to keep the boat from being capsized by the speed and the waves. The mother ship, the other boats, are far behind, lost to sight. You are alone with the whale, tied to its pain and its fury. The rope is a living thing, a tense thread connecting your fragile existence to the dying monster in the depths below. You stare at it, mesmerized, waiting for it to snap, waiting for the whale to turn on you. This is not a hunt. It is a battle, and you are not at all sure who is going to win. The world has shrunk to the length of this boat and the humming, taut line that stretches out before it. The sea is a blur of gray and white, a rushing, churning path, carved by your own terrifying velocity. The boat shudders and skips across the tops of the swells, landing with bone-jarring slaps in the troughs. Every impact feels like it will split the thin cedar planks beneath your feet. Your work is frantic. Bail, throw, bail, throw. The water in the bottom of the boat sloshes around your ankles, cold and heavy. Your arms burn with the effort. Your back screams in protest, but you cannot stop. A swamped boat is a slow boat, a boat that can be pulled under. You and Mateo work as a single machine, your buckets rising and falling in a desperate rhythm. Up in the bow, Silas is a figure of intense focus. He is tending the line, letting it play out when the whale dives deep, taking in slack when it rises. He pours buckets of seawater onto the smoking loggerhead in the stern, where Mr. Finch has now snubbed the rope, the friction generating plumes of acrid steam. The smell of burning rope fills the air, a sharp, alarming scent that mixes with the salt and the cold. Mr. Finch stands braced in the stern, his knuckles white on the steering oar, his face a mask of concentration. He is reading the line, feeling the whale's every move through the vibrating hemp. He shouts orders that are snatched away by the wind. He's rising, get ready. He's coming up. You stop bailing. Will it come up under the boat? The thought sends a jolt of pure ice through your veins. You have heard the stories of boats smashed to kindling by a rising whale, of men thrown into the churning sea, their bodies crushed by the thrashing flukes. The line, which had been angling steeply down into the depths, begins to shallow. The tension lessens for a fraction of a second, and then, 100 yards ahead, the sea begins to boil. The surface bulges upwards, and the whale erupts from the water. It is a vision of terrible majesty. The colossal square head bursts forth, followed by the immense dark bulk of its body, streaming water, like a resurrected island. It hangs there for a moment against the gray sky, impossibly huge, a creature not of this world. It is no longer just an animal. It is a force, a power, an embodiment of the wildness of the ocean itself. Then it crashes back into the sea with a sound that is not a splash, but a deep, resonant boom that you feel in your chest. A wave of its own making radiates out. The whale is on the surface now, wounded and enraged. It thrashes its head from side to side, its great jaw snapping shut. It beats the water with its flukes, sending geysers of spray into the air. And it makes a sound, a low guttural, moaning roar of agony and fury. It is a sound that will haunt your sleep for years to come. "Pull me in," Silas yells from the bow. "Haul line, haul." The sleigh ride is over. Now begins the real work. You drop your bucket and grab the whale line where it runs down the center of the boat. It is wet and rough, the hemp fibers biting into your already raw hands. "Haul," Mr. Finch screams. "Haul, you dogs, pull him to us." You pull. It is like trying to move a mountain. You plant your feet on the floorboards, lean back, and put every ounce of your strength into it. The man in front of you is pulling. The man behind you is pulling. You haul in the wet, heavy rope hand over hand, coiling it carefully at your feet. A tangled line can mean a lost leg or a lost life if the whale suddenly dives again. The boat creeps forward. The water around the whale is beginning to change color. Patches of slick, dark red are spreading on the surface, a greasy film that catches the gray light. The smell of blood, warm and metallic, reaches you. Closer. The sounds are deafening now. The roar of the whale, the churning of the water, the shouting of the men. The boat rocks violently in the turbulent sea created by the whale's death throes. You are pulling yourselves into a vortex of violence. The whale's eye, small and dark, rolls wildly in its massive head. You feel, for a terrifying moment, that it is looking right at you, seeing you, a tiny, insignificant creature causing it this immense pain. "Easy. Hold fast," Mr. Finch orders. You stop hauling, holding the line taut. The boat is just a few feet from the whale's side. It is a landscape of black, scarred flesh, rising and falling with its tortured breaths. You can see the harpoon shaft, slick with blood. Mr. Finch gives the steering oar to another man, and picks up a new weapon, the lance. It is a long, slender pole of iron, tipped with a razor-sharp, spade-like head. It is not a throwing weapon like the harpoon. It is for close work. He moves carefully to the bow, bracing himself beside Silas. The boat drifts alongside the heaving flank of the whale. "Give me a chance," Mr. Finch mutters, his voice tight. Just one clear chance. He is searching for the whale's life, the vast network of arteries, and the lungs hidden deep within its body. A strike there will finish it. A misplaced strike will only enrage it further. The whale rolls, its massive body turning in the water. For a moment, its side is presented perfectly. Now Mr. Finch leans far out over the bow, his body a taut line of muscle and intent. He thrusts the long lance deep into the whale's side, just behind the flipper. He puts his entire weight behind it, driving it in, churning it, searching for the life source. The whale shudders. A deep, convulsive tremor runs through its entire body. It lets out a long, shuddering groan, a sound of final, profound agony. And then it is a thick scarlet jet of blood, shooting 20 feet into the air. It is the chimney catch, the sign that the lungs have been pierced. The jet falls back upon itself, raining down on the whale, on the sea, on your boat. You are spattered with it. A warm, sticky rain of blood and lung tissue. It coats your face, your hands, your clothes. The smell is overpowering, a coppery, sickening stench that fills your throat and makes you want to gag. You look at Mateo. His face is a mask of red, his eyes wide with horror. The whale goes into its flurry, its final, violent burst of energy. It thrashes by blindly, its immense body beating the sea into a crimson foam. The boat is tossed about like a cork. You can do nothing but hold on, brace yourself, and pray that the flukes do not find you. The water is a churning cauldron of red and white. It seems to go on forever, this final terrible dance. But slowly, the movements become weaker, more spasmodic. The thrashing subsides. The great body rolls onto its side. A last, long, shuddering sigh escapes it. The world is suddenly quiet, save for the lapping of the bloody water against the hull, and the heavy, gasping breaths of the men in the boat. The whale floats motionless on the surface, its one visible eye staring blankly at the gray sky, a vast, silent monument to your work. The sea around you is a slick, calm lake of blood. You stare at the creature, your heart still pounding. The wild excitement of the chase, the terror of the fight, has evaporated, leaving behind a hollow, aching exhaustion and something else, a deep, unsettling sadness. It was a magnificent thing, and you have killed it. For its oil. "He's done," Mr. Finch says, his voice rough. He slumps against the bow, his arms trembling from the exertion. "Well done, lads. Well done." But there is no elation in his voice, only weariness. The hunt is over, but the real work, the dirty work, is just beginning. You have to secure your prize. Another lance, with a flag attached, is planted in the carcass to mark it as yours. Then begins the slow, arduous task of towing the dead whale back to the oar feels 10 times heavier than it did this morning. You dig it into the water, which is thick and greasy with oil and blood, and you pull. The boat moves sluggishly, dragging the immense weight behind it. The whale acts as a sea anchor, its dead mass a terrible burden. Every stroke is a struggle. The other 2 boats, which had hung back during the final stages of the fight, now approach. They have been unsuccessful in their own chases. Their crews look on, their faces a mixture of envy and relief. One of them will help you tow. The line from your boat is passed to them, and together, 12 men rowing, you begin the long, slow journey back to the escargot. The ship is a small speck on the horizon. It will take hours to reach it. You fall into a numb rhythm of rowing. Pull, Breathe, pull, breathe. The sun, a pale disk in the gray sky, begins its slow descent towards the west. The air grows colder. Sharks begin to arrive. They are drawn by the blood, appearing as if from nowhere. First one, then a dozen, then too many to count. They are sleek, gray shapes, circling the boat, their fins cutting through the crimson water. They begin to feed on the whale carcass. You can hear them, tearing, ripping sounds. They launch themselves at the floating body, their jaws snapping, tearing away huge chunks of blubber and flesh. The water churns with their feeding frenzy. They bump against the boat, their rough skin scraping along the hull. It is a terrifying, primal scene. You try to ignore them. You focus on the back of the man in front of you, on the rhythm of the oar, on the burning in your muscles. But you are acutely aware of the frenzy happening just feet away from you. You are aware of how thin the wood of the boat is. The hours crawl by. Your world is reduced to the ache in your shoulders, the sting of blisters on your hands, the rhythmic creak of the oar, and the nauseating, sweet smell of blood. You are no longer a boy from a farm. You are a butcher, a killer, a part of this bloody floating factory. Finally, as the light begins to fail, you reach the ship. The Argo looms over you, a fortress of safety and familiarity. Ropes are thrown down, and the whale carcass is secured alongside the ship, floating against the hull like a monstrous, misshapen shadow. You climb the rope ladder back onto the deck, your body feeling weak and shaky. Your legs, so used to the unstable floor of the whaleboat, feel clumsy and strange on the solid deck. The crew on board, the men who did not go in the boats, look at you with a new respect. You have been blooded. You are no longer a true green hand. But there is no time for rest. The captain is anxious to begin processing the whale. The sharks are still tearing at it, and every piece they take is a piece of profit lost. A cutting stage, a narrow wooden platform, is lowered over the side just above the floating carcass. Men with long-handled cutting spades, their blades honed to a razor's edge, take their places on the platform. Huge tackles are lowered from the mainmast. A massive hook is embedded in the blubber near the whale's head. The crew on deck man the windlass, a powerful winch. Heave, the first mate cries. Heave and haul. You take your place at the windlass bars. You and a dozen other men lean your weight against the heavy wooden bars and begin to walk in a circle, turning the massive mechanism. It is grinding, back-breaking work. The windlass groans and creaks in protest. Slowly, agonizingly, the tackle tightens. The ship lists to one side as it takes the strain. The massive hook pulls at the whale's body, and a long strip of blubber, with the head attached, begins to peel away from the carcass, like the rind from a piece of fruit. The men on the cutting stage work their spades, guiding the cut, slicing through the thick, tough blanket of blubber. The head is brought on board first. It is too heavy to be brought on deck whole. It is secured to the side of the ship, and the work of bailing the case begins. The case is the great reservoir in the sperm whale's head that contains the most precious prize of all, spermaceta, a pure, waxy oil that is liquid gold. A man is lowered onto the floating head with a bucket. He cuts a hole into the top of the case and begins to dip his bucket in, hauling up gallons of the clear, fragrant oil. Meanwhile, the work on the blubber continues. The windlass turns, and the long strip of blubber, called a blanket piece, is peeled from the body and hoisted aboard. It is a slow, bloody, greasy process. The deck becomes a slick, treacherous mess of blood and oil. You slip and slide as you work, your boots finding no purchase. The blanket pieces, some of them weighing over a ton, are lowered into the blubber room. a section of the deck reserved for the grisly work of slicing the blubber into smaller pieces, called Bible leaves, thin enough to be rendered in the try-works. This is your new job. You are given the work is repetitive and nauseating. The greasy feel of the blubber coats your hands, your arms, your clothes. The smell is thick and cloying. Darkness has fallen completely. The work does not stop. Torches and lanterns are lit, casting a flickering, hellish glow over the scene. The deck of the Asteriscargo is a vision from a nightmare. Men, slick with blood and grease, work under the swinging lanterns. Their faces are grim, illuminated by the flickering light. The sounds are of chopping, slicing, the creak of the windlass, and the low, constant murmur of the sharks still feeding on what remains of the carcass below. Sometime late in the night, the cook brings food, more salt beef and hardtack. You eat it standing up, your hands too greasy to hold the food properly. It tastes of blood and oil. You wash it down with stale water, your throat raw, and then the captain gives the order. Fire the try-works. A new phase of the horror begins. Wood is brought to the brick furnace. The fires are lit. At first, they are fed with wood, but soon they will be fed with the scraps of blubber itself. The whale will be used to cook its own body. The two great iron pots begin to heat up. The Bible leaves, the thin slices of blubber, are thrown in. A horrible sizzling, sputtering sound begins, and a thick, black, greasy smoke begins to pour from the pots. The smoke is a physical entity. It is thick and choking, smelling of burning flesh and oil. It billows across the deck, engulfing everything. It burns your eyes, your throat, your lungs. The wind does not carry it away. It just swirls and eddies, trapping you in a foul-smelling cloud. The men who work the try-works, the pot tenders, are a vision of hell. They stand silhouetted against the roaring flames, their bodies black with soot and grease. They use long-handled skimmers to stir the rendering blubber, to fish out the crispy, shriveled pieces of tissue, called cracklings, which are then used as fuel. The night is filled with fire and smoke. The flames from the try-works leap high into the ship from a distance, must look like a volcano that has erupted in the middle of the ocean. You are no longer slicing blubber. You are now part of a chain, hauling the Bible leaves to the try-pots, feeding the beast. The heat from the furnace is intense, scorching your face. The smoke is so thick you can barely see the man next to you. You cough and spit, your lungs burning. This is the reality of whaling, not the thrilling chase, not the romance of the sea. It is this, a stinking, filthy industrial process performed in the middle of nowhere. You are not a sailor. You are a factory worker, a butcher, a renderer. Your body is a single throbbing ache. Your hands are cut and blistered. Your eyes stream from the smoke. Your mind is numb with exhaustion. You move and work like an automaton, driven by the orders of the mates and the sheer, overwhelming momentum of the task. The hours blend into a single, long nightmare of fire, smoke, and grease. You lose all track of time. Is it midnight? Is it almost dawn? It doesn't. You look over the side. The sharks are gone. The carcass of the whale, now stripped of its blubber, has been cast loose. It floats away into the darkness, a pale, ghostly shape, food for the scavengers of the deep. A part of you feels a strange pity for it. For this final indignity, you turn back to the fire, to the smoke, to the work. There is no room for pity here. There is only the oil, the precious golden oil that is slowly filling the barrels, the oil that represents your pay, your hope of one day returning home. And as you heave another load of greasy blubber towards the roaring fire, you wonder if any amount of oil is worth this. You wonder if the boy who left the farm 6 months ago would even recognize the smoke-blackened, blood-soaked creature you have become. The night bleeds into a false dawn. The sky to the east lightens from black to a deep, bruised purple, but the change brings no relief. The artificial sun of the tryworks still burns at the center of your world, eclipsing the natural rhythm of the day. The fires have not the ship remains an island of foul industry in the vast quiet sea. Your body has gone past the point of simple exhaustion. It now exists in a state of dull mechanical motion. The sharp pains in your back and shoulders have subsided into a single pervasive ache. The blisters on your hands have broken, and the raw skin beneath stings with every touch of the greasy tools and ropes. You move because the men around you are moving, caught in the relentless current of the work. The deck is almost unrecognizable. It is no longer wood, but a slick, treacherous landscape of black grime. A thick layer of soot from the trypots coats every surface, mixing with the spilled oil and blood to form a greasy, ankle-deep sludge. Walking is a controlled slide. The air is thick enough to chew, a foul concoction of black smoke, vaporized oil, and the lingering, metallic tang of blood. You have been breathing it for so long that you no longer notice the way it rasps in your throat, the way it coats your tongue. It is simply the air. You are now working near the trypots, part of the team bailing the rendered oil. The blubber, thrown into the immense cauldrons, has melted down into a clear, golden liquid. Using a large ladle with a long wooden handle, you and another man dip into the scalding pot. The heat is a physical blow, baking your face, making your eyes water. You have to be careful. A splash of boiling oil means a burn that will peel the flesh from your bones. You have seen it happen. You ladle the hot oil into a copper cooling tank. The liquid gold. This is the prize. From the cooling tank, it will be funneled into the great oak casks that are waiting, row on row, their hoops shining in the firelight. The sounds are the sounds of Hell's Kitchen. The furious roar and crackle of the fire, the bubbling sizzle of the rendering blubber, the clang of metal ladles against the iron pots, the shouted commands of the mates, hoarse and strained. The ship itself groans under the heat and the strain. You work in a daze. Ladle, lift, pour. Ladle, lift, pour. You watch your own arms move. Your own hands grip the handle of the ladle. But the connection feels distant, dreamlike. A man slips in the grime near you and goes down with a curse. He is up again in an instant, covered in the black filth, his face a mask of fury and exhaustion. No one stops to help. No one has the energy. You simply make way and continue the work. There is no room for weakness. The cooper and his mates are busy, their hammers ringing as they seal the casks of cooled oil. Each barrel is carefully marked with the ship's name and the quality of the oil. They are the accountants of this grisly business, tallying the profit in liquid measure. Once full, the heavy casks are maneuvered to the main hatch and carefully lowered into the dark, cavernous hold. You hear the rhythmic chunk, chunk, chunk of an axe. A few men have been assigned to the head, which is still secured to the side of the ship. They are working on the massive lower jaw. The bone is too large to bring aboard, but the teeth are valuable. Each tooth, a curved cone of ivory the size of your fist, the one form of artistry in this brutal world. You watch a man use a mallet and chisel to knock a tooth loose from its socket. It comes free with a wet, tearing sound. He holds it up in the firelight, a pale, gleaming prize, before tossing it into a bucket. The first hint of the true sun touches the highest point of the mainmast, a sliver of clean, golden light, far above the filth and smoke of the deck. It seems to come from another world, a world that has no knowledge of this floating abattoir. The gray of the sky begins to resolve into blues and pale pinks at the horizon. The sea, where it is not stained with the ship's refuse, is a deep, tranquil blue. The contrast is jarring. The beauty of the dawn feels like a mockery of the scene on deck. You pause for a second, your ladle resting on the edge of the pot, and look out at the clean line of the horizon. You think of home. You try to conjure an image of a green field, of a quiet country lane. The image is faint, washed out, like a faded painting. This ship, this work, this smell, this is your keep it moving, greenhorn, a voice barks, and you are jolted back to the present. It is the third mate, his face black with soot, his eyes red-rimmed and bloodshot. You bend your back to the work again. As the sun climbs higher, the fires in the try-works are finally allowed to die down. The last of the blubber has been rendered. The great pots tick and groan as they begin to cool, the last wisps of foul smoke curling from their rims. A new phase of labor begins, cleaning up. The task seems impossible. The ship looks as if it has been submerged in a swamp of grease and soot. But the mates are relentless. The routine of the ship must be restored. "Get to it," Mr. Finch commands, his voice raw. "I want this deck clean enough to eat off by nightfall. Scrapers, holy stones, swabs, move." You are handed a scraper, a flat piece of metal on a long handle. Your job is to scrape the thick, congealed layer of greasy soot from the planks. It is a disgusting, soul-destroying task. The gunk comes up in thick black rolls, clinging to the scraper, to your hands, to your clothes. You work your way across the deck on your hands and knees, scraping, scraping, scraping. The sun is hot on your back now, and the stench of the old smoke and stale blood seems to bake into the air. Other men follow with buckets of sand and the holy stones. The grinding, scraping sound of the sandstone on the wood begins again. The same sound you heard just yesterday morning. Was it only yesterday? It feels like a lifetime ago. The sand and stone scour away the worst of the grime, but the wood of the deck will forever be stained, forever impregnated with the oil of 100 whales. You work your way methodically from the bow to the stern. The physical effort is immense, but in a way it is a relief. It is a mindless task, a task that requires no thought, no feeling. It is a way to numb the mind while the body works. You see Silas, the harpooner, sitting quietly on a barrel mending a coil of line. His work is done. His hands, he seems apart from the chaos, an island of calm. He catches you looking and gives a slight, almost imperceptible nod. It is a gesture of acknowledgement, of shared experience. You have passed through the fire. You are one of them now. The thought brings you no comfort, only a sense of resignation. The midday meal is served amidst the cleanup. It is the same as always, but today no one has the heart to complain. You find a relatively clean patch of railing to sit on and eat your salt beef and hardtack. You are too tired to taste it. You eat for the fuel, for the strength to continue working. Your body is a machine that needs stoking. The afternoon wears on under the hot sun. The deck slowly, miraculously, begins to re-emerge from the filth. The black sludge is scraped and scoured away, washed into the scuppers and back into the sea, leaving a trail of iridescent slick in the ship's wake. The ropes are coiled, the tools are cleaned and put away. The try-works are scrubbed. Order is being restored, inch by painful inch. Your task, you go below deck, into the cramped dark space where the blanket pieces were sliced. The air here is thick and stagnant, heavy with the cloying smell of whale flesh. The floor, the walls, Everything is coated in a thick, gelatinous layer of old blubber and blood. You work with shovels, scraping the mess into buckets to be hauled up and thrown overboard. The work is claustrophobic, the stench overwhelming. You feel a wave of nausea, but you swallow it down. Late in the afternoon, the work is finally declared done. The deck, while still stained and greasy to the touch, is at least clear. The ship once again looks like a ship, not a slaughterhouse. The men move slowly, their bodies stooped with a deep cellular weariness. Voices are low, conversations short and guttural. The wild energy of the hunt and the frantic labor of the processing have drained away, leaving a profound collective exhaustion in their wake. You are dismissed. You are not on watch until midnight. You have a few hours to yourself. The thought of your bunk, of sleep, is the air, which yesterday morning seemed so foul and oppressive, now smells almost clean in comparison to the deck. It is your sanctuary. You collapse onto your bunk, not even bothering to remove your stiff, greasy clothes. You are too tired to care. The rough wool blanket is a comfort. The gentle, familiar roll of the ship is a lullaby. Your body sinks into the lumpy mattress, and every muscle, every joint, groans in relief. But sleep does not come immediately. Your mind is still racing. Images from the last 24 hours flash behind your closed eyelids. The spout on the horizon, the terrifying speed of the sleigh ride, the whale, huge and majestic, bursting from the water, the hiss of the lance, the fountain of blood, the fire and smoke of the tryworks, the face of Mateo, spattered with red. You feel the ship's motion, the slow, steady rise and fall. It is the breathing of the ocean, the rhythm of your world. You have survived. You have done the work. You have faced the beast and the fire, and you are still here. But something inside you has changed. A certain innocence, a certain ignorance about the brutal mechanics of the world has been scoured away, scraped off like the grime from the deck. You think of the oil, now stored safely in the hold. Cask after cask of it, it is the purpose of this voyage. It will light the lamps of cities you will never see. It will lubricate the machines of an industrial world that is a world away from your farm. You are a vital cog in that machine, a harvester of the fuel that runs it. The thought is both grand and terrible. A man in the bunk next to you is snoring, a low, rasping sound. Another is quietly honing a knife. The small, familiar sounds of the forecastle ground you. This is your life now. This cycle of boredom and terror, of waiting and frantic, filthy labor. You wonder how many more times you will have to live through a day like this one. How many more whales must be killed before the hold is full? A year, 2. The time stretches out before you, a vast and intimidating sea. Your thoughts begin to slow. You feel the deep, resonant vibration of the ship's timbers against your back. You smell the familiar smells of your cramped quarters. You hear the gentle sigh of the sea. You are adrift on the Pacific Ocean, a boy who has become a man in a crucible of blood and fire. You are tired, so very tired, and as the ship rocks you gently in its wooden cradle, you finally let go, and you fall into a deep, dreamless sleep. The darkness that takes you is profound and welcome. It is a small mercy, a temporary oblivion. For a few hours, there are no whales, no fires, no endless aching work. There is only the darkness, and the gentle, constant motion of the sea carrying you towards the next day. You do not know it yet, but far below you, in the dark belly of the ship, the great casks of oil are settling, and in the deeper darkness of the ocean, other whales are swimming, their long, slow journeys uninterrupted. For now, your paths will cross again, It is inevitable. It is the nature of this life you have chosen. But for now, the deep, exhausted sleep has wiped your memory clean. Then it comes back to you, in a flood. The forecastle, the ship, the whale. Your watch, a low voice murmurs. It is one of the men from the preceding watch, his face a pale smudge in the gloom. You grunt in acknowledgement, your voice a rough croak. Every part of your body protests as you move. A deep, stone-like ache has settled into your bones. Your muscles are stiff and fiery. You feel as if you have been beaten. You swing your legs out of the bunk, and your feet find the familiar cold of the floorboards. The ship is calm, the rolling motion gentle and predictable. You pull on your boots. Your clothes are stiff with dried grease and salt. They smell faintly of smoke and something ancient and animal. You run a hand over your face and it comes away feeling oily. There is a gritty film of soot in your hair, around your eyes. You are layered in the residue of your labor. You climb the ladder to the deck. The change in the air is immediate and profound. After the close, human fog of the forecastle, the night air is shockingly clean. You take a deep breath, and another, letting the cold air scour the lingering taste of smoke from your mouth. The night is immense. The sky is a vast sweep of black velvet, scattered with a dust of brilliant, impossibly bright stars. With no moon, their light is sharp and clear, casting a faint, ghostly luminescence upon the deck. The Milky Way is a thick, shimmering river of light overhead, more vivid than you have ever seen it from the land. You can see the dark shapes of the sails against it, great black rectangles blotting out constellations. The deck is quiet. The fires are long dead. The chaos of the day is a memory. The only sounds are the gentle creak of the ship's timbers, the soft sigh of the wind in the rigging, and the rhythmic wash of water along the hull. The ship seems to be breathing, a living creature asleep on the breast of the ocean. A few men are on deck, the members of your watch. They move like shadows in the starlight, their voices low and infrequent. Mr. Finch is there, a dark, solid shape on the quarterdeck, his presence a silent reminder of authority. You are assigned your post lookout, not at the main masthead, but in the bow. Your job is simple. Stand, watch, listen. You make your way to the forecastle head, the raised deck at the very front of the ship. You find a spot to lean against the foremast stays, the thick ropes that support the mast. The wood of the bowsprit juts out before you, a long finger pointing into the infinite darkness. The ship rises and falls beneath you, a slow, majestic rhythm. As the bow lifts towards the stars, you feel a sense of lightness, of soaring. Then it sinks gracefully into a trough, and the dark water rushes up to meet you, hissing and whispering secrets just a few feet below. This is a different world from the one of chaos and fire you inhabited just hours ago. This is a world of peace, of solitude, of a silence so profound it seems to have a weight and presence of its own. It is just you, the ship, and the universe. The ship is a tiny, fragile bubble of human life in an ocean of blackness. You feel your own smallness, your own insignificance in the face of such vastness. The 3 years of your contract feel like an eternity, but out here, under these stars, 3 years is less than a blink of an eye. Your eyes adjust to the darkness. You can make out the phosphorescence in the water, faint, ghostly trails of green light stirred up by the ship's passage. A dolphin, perhaps, or a school of fish. The sea is alive, even in the deep of night. You think about the whale. You see it not as the thrashing, bleeding monster of the fight, but as it was when you first saw it, a dark, placid shape gliding through the water, a part of this immense nocturnal world. There is no triumph in the memory now, only a lingering ache of sorrow. You were the agent of its destruction, the bringer of fire and steel into its world. And for what? For the light in a parlor lamp, for the smooth running of a factory machine. The cold begins to seep into you. It is a deep, penetrating cold that the work of the day had kept at bay. You stamp your feet on the deck, trying to bring some life back into them. You wrap your arms around yourself, but your greasy clothes offer little warmth. The wind, though gentle, has a sharp, icy edge to it. Time stretches and becomes fluid. The ship's bell is struck behind you, a clear, sharp sound that hangs in the cold air for a moment before being swallowed by the silence. One bell. The first half hour of the watch has passed. You have 3 more half hours to go. An hour and a half of standing in the cold and the dark, alone with your thoughts. You let your mind drift. You think of the farm, of the smell of turned earth in the spring, of the solid, unmoving ground beneath your feet. You try to remember the faces of your family, but they are hazy, indistinct. This life has a way of erasing the past. The rolling of the ship, the taste of salt, the constant presence of the sea, these things become your entire reality. You hear a soft sound nearby. It is just Matteo, your fellow watchman, making his rounds. He pauses beside you, a shadow among shadows. "Quiet night," he says, his voice a low murmur. "Aye," you reply. He leans against the rail beside you, looking out into the darkness. For a long time neither of you speaks. There is a strange comfort in his silent presence, a brief reprieve from the profound loneliness. "I saw your face," he says finally, his voice barely a whisper. "When the blood came," you don't answer. You just nod in the darkness. "My first time I was sick for 3 days," he continues, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "My brother, he laughed at me. He said I did not have the stomach for it. Matteo is from the Azores, from a family of whalemen. This life is in his blood. Do you get used to it?" you ask, the words feeling heavy in your mouth. He is silent for a moment, considering. "No," he says softly, "you do not get used to it. You just learn where to put it. You build a wall inside. You have to, or you go mad." He pushes himself off the rail. "I must check the stern." He gives you a short nod and disappears back into the shadows, leaving you alone once more. You think about his words. You build a wall inside. Perhaps that is what you were feeling in the forecastle before sleep, the first bricks being laid, the numbing of a part of yourself, the part that feels pity, that feels wonder, the part that is still a boy from a farm. Another bell strikes, then another. The watch crawls by, measured in these small, lonely increments of time. Your mind grows numb with the cold and the monotony. You stop thinking. You just watch. You become a pair of eyes, scanning the dark water, a pair of ears, listening to the night sounds of the ship. You begin to notice the small things, the way the starlight glints on a patch of wet deck, the subtle shift in the sound of the wind as it moves from one sail to another, the groan of a particular timber in the bow as the ship pitches. This becomes your world, this collection of tiny sensory details. It is a way to stay anchored in the present, to keep your mind from wandering to places of fear. It is not the usual rhythm. You listen intently. You hear it again, a soft, scraping, bumping sound. From below and to the side, you lean over the rail, peering down into the darkness at the waterline. You can't see anything, but you can feel it through the soles of your feet, a rhythmic, heavy bumping against the hull. It is the stripped carcass, the one you cast adrift. The currents have brought it back. It is following you. A shiver, cold and sharp, runs down your spine. The ghost of the whale has returned to haunt the ship. It bumps against the hull like a persistent beggar, a reminder of the day's bloody work. You imagine its pale, flensed body, its empty eye socket, nudging the ship that killed it. You say nothing. It is not a danger. It is just unsettling, a last, silent protest from the deep. You stand your post and listen to the ship's dead companion bump and scrape alongside you for the rest of your watch. Finally, you hear the welcome sound of 4 double bells. Your watch is over. 2 hours of your life, spent in the cold dark, are gone. The new watch comes on deck, their movements sluggish with sleep. You are relieved without a word, and you turn your back on the bow, on the stars, and on the ghost that bumps against the hull. You descend once more into the warmth and close air of the forecastle. It is a haven. You strip off your boots and your stiff, foul clothes, leaving them in a pile on the floor. You crawl into your bunk, pulling the rough blanket over you. Your skin is cold, but a deep warmth begins to spread from the core of your body. The man in the bunk above you is talking in his sleep, a low, troubled muttering. The air is thick with the breath of sleeping men. The ship rocks you, a constant, soothing motion. You are exhausted in a way you have never been before. It is not just your body that is tired. It is your soul. You close your eyes. The darkness behind your lids is a welcome relief. You don't think about tomorrow. You don't think about the next whale or the next fire. You think only of this small, dark space, your bunk, your 6 feet of existence. You have survived the trying out. You have stood watch under the immense and indifferent sky. You have done your work, and now there is nothing left to do. The gentle rocking of the ship is the only thing that matters. A slow rise, a gentle fall, a cradle on a dark and endless ocean. Let it carry you away. Let it pull you down into the deep, quiet waters of sleep. There is safety there. There is peace, just for a little while. Breathe in, and let the tide take you. Breathe out, and drift away.